Hello everyone, today we are going to start with the chapter 1 of Biology, Class 11th NCRT reading. So, without wasting time, let us start. How wonderful is the living world! The wide range of living types is amazing. Extraordinary habitat in which we find living organisms, be it cold mountains, deciduous forests, oceans, freshwater lakes, deserts, or hot springs, they leave us speechless. The beauty of galloping horse, of the migratory birds, the value of flowers, or the attacking shark evokes awe and a deep sense of wonder. The ecological conflict and cooperation among members of a population and among populations of a community, or even the molecular traffic inside a cell, make us deeply reflect on that what indeed is life. This question has two implicit questions within it. The first is a technical one and seek answer to what living is as opposed to the non-living, and the second is the philosophical one and seeks answer to what the purpose of life is. As a scientist, we shall not attempt answering the second question, but we will try to reflect on what is living. Now, starting with that, what is living? So, if you look around you, you will see a large variety of living organisms, be it potted plant, insects, birds, your pets, or other animals and plants. There are also several organisms that you cannot see with your naked eye, but they are all around you. If you were to increase the area that you make observations in, the range and variety of organisms that you will see would increase. Obviously, if you were to visit a dense forest, you would probably see a much greater number and kinds of living organisms in it. Each different kind of plant, animal, organism that you see represent a species. The number of species that are known described range between 1.7 to 1.8 million. This is an important line. The biodiversity or the number and types of organisms present on Earth. We should remember here that as we explore new areas and even the old one, new organisms are continuously being identified. As stated earlier, there are millions of plants and animals in the world. We know that plants and animals in our own area are known by their local names, and these local names have another name. We call them as vernacular names. But due to vernacular names, there arise a lot of confusions. These local names would vary from place to place and even within a country. Probably you would recognize the confusion that would be created if we did not find ways and means to talk to each other to refer to organisms we are talking about. Hence, there is a need to standardize the naming of living organisms such that a particular organism is known by the same name all over the world. This process is called nomenclature, and obviously nomenclature or naming is only possible when the organism is described correctly and we know to what organism the name is attached to. This is called identification. In order to facilitate the study, numbers of scientists have established procedure to assign the scientific name to each known organism. This is acceptable to biologists all over the world. For plants, scientific names are based on the agreed principles and criteria which are provided in International Code for Botanical Nomenclature. Very important. Scientific for plants, for plants, scientific names for plants, scientific names are based on the agreed principles and criteria which are provided by International Code for Botanical Nomenclature, ICBN. Very important. And you may ask, how are animals named? Animal taxonomists have evolved the International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. International Code of Zoological Nomenclature. Yes, let me highlight this. The scientific names ensure that each organism has only one name. Description of any organism should enable the people in any part of the world to arrive at the same name. They also ensure that such a name has not been used for any other known organism. Biologists follow universally accepted principles. What biologists follow? They follow universally accepted principles to provide scientific names to known organisms. Each name has two components. The first is the generic name and the specific epithet. The system of providing a name with two components is called binomial nomenclature and is given by Carolus Linnaeus. This is binomial nomenclature. This naming system given by Carolus Linnaeus is being practiced by biologists all over the world. This naming using a two-word format was found convenient. Let us take an example of mango. To understand the way of providing scientific names better, the scientific name of mango is written as Mangifera indica. Let us see how it is a binomial name. In this name, Mangifera represents the genus and indica represents the species. So whenever we are writing scientific names, for mango we write Mangifera. We write Mangifera indica. And this, when they are written, they are separately underlined. Okay? And the first name starts with a capital letter which denotes genus, and the second letter starts with a small letter which denotes species. एंड अगर हमें यहाँ पर ऑथर का नेम भी लिखना हो तो वी राइट दैम एज एन abbreviated form, and the author's name should start with a capital letter and in abbreviated form, but हमें उसे अंडरलाइन नहीं करना है, नॉन इटैलिक्स में लिखना है. ठीक है, ओके. नाउ कंटिन्यू द रीडिंग. यस, so we are at this. In this name, Mangifera represents a genus and Indica represents species or a specific epithet. Other universal rules of nomenclature are as follows. Biological names are generally in Latin. Why in Latin? Because Latin is a dead language. Okay? Origin. The first word in a biological name represents a genus, while the second component denotes the specific epithet. Both the words in a biological name, when handwritten, are separately underlined or printed in italics to indicate their Latin origin. Okay, now the next is the first word denoting the genus starts with a capital letter, while the specific epithet starts with a small letter. It can be illustrated with an example. Name of the author appears after the specific epithet that is at the end of the biological name and is written in abbreviated form. Example, Mangifera indica. It indicates that the species was first described by Linnaeus. Since it is nearly impossible to study all the living organisms, it is necessary to devise some means to make this possible. This process is classification. Classification is a process by which anything is grouped into convenient categories based on some easily observable characters. For example, we easily recognize groups such as plants or animals or dogs, cat, or insect. The moment we use any of these terms, we associate certain characters with the organism in that group. What image do you see when you think of a dog? Obviously, each one of us will see dogs, not cats. Now, if we're to think of Alsatians, we know that we are talking about this. Likewise, in plants, if we try to talk of wheat, the picture of wheat comes to our mind. Yes, hence all these dogs, cat, mammal, this are convenient categories we use to study organisms. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. The scientific term for these categories is taxa. Here, you must recognize that taxa can indicate categories at very different levels. Plants also form a taxa, wheat also a taxa, these all form a taxa, but you know that dog is a mammal and mammals are animals, therefore animals, mammals, dogs represent taxa at different level. What? They represent a taxa at a different level. Hence, based on characteristics, all living organisms can be classified into different taxa. This process of classification is taxonomy. External and internal structure, along with the structure of cell, development process, ecological information of organism are essential and form the basis of modern taxonomic studies. Hence, hence, characterization, identification, classification, and nomenclature, they are the processes that are basic to taxonomy. Taxonomy is not something new. Human beings have always been interested in knowing more and more about the various kinds of organisms, particularly with reference to their own use. In early days, human beings needed to find sources for the basic needs of food, clothing, and shelter. Hence, earliest classification were based on the uses. Human beings were since long not only interested in knowing more about different kinds of organisms and their diversity, but also about relationship among them. This branch of study was referred to as systematics. Systematics is called modern taxonomy. Yes. Okay, now moving ahead. The word systematics is derived from Latin word systema, which means systematic arrangement of organisms. Linnaeus used Systema Naturae as the title of his publication. Systema Naturae as a title of his publication. The scope of systematics were later enlarged to include identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics takes into account evolutionary relationships between organisms. Classification is not a single step but process but involves hierarchy of steps in which each step represents a rank or a category. Since the category is part of overall taxonomic arrangement, it is called taxonomic category, and all the categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. All the categories together constitute taxonomic hierarchy. Each category refers to as a unit of classification. In fact, represent a rank and is commonly termed as a taxon. Taxonomic categories and hierarchy can be illustrated by an example. Insects represent a group of organisms sharing common features like three paired of jointed leg. It means insects are recognizable concrete objects which can be classified and thus we are given a rank or a category. Can you name other such groups of organisms? Remember, groups represent category. Category further denotes rank, and each rank in fact represents a unit of classification. These taxonomic groups categories are distinct biological entities and not merely morphological aggregates. Taxonomical studies of all known organisms have led to the development of common categories such as kingdom, phylum, division, class, order, family, genus, and species. All organisms, including those in plants and animal kingdom, have species as the lowest category. Species as the lowest category. More similar characters. Yes, specific characters. Now the question you may ask is how to place an organism in various categories. The basic requirement is knowledge of characters of an individual or a group of organisms. This helps in identifying similarities and dissimilarities among the individuals of the same kind of organism as well as other kind of organisms. Moving for species. Taxonomic studies consider a group of individual organisms with fundamental similarities as a species. Fundamental similarities as a species. One should be able to distinguish one species from the other closely related species based on the distinct morphological differences. Let us consider Mangifera indica, Solanum tuberosum, and Panthera leu. All the three names indica, tuberosum, leo represent the specific epithets, while the first word of Mangifera, Solanum, Panthera they represent genera and represents another higher level of taxon or category. Each genus may have one or more than one specific epithet. Important line again. Each genus may have more than one species representing different organism but having morphological similarities. For example, Panthera has another specific epithet called tigris, and Solanum includes species like Nigrum and Melangella. Human beings belong to species Sapiens, which is grouped in the genus Homo. Scientific name thus for human beings is written as Homo sapiens. Genus comprises a group of related species which has more characters in common in comparison to species of other genera. We can say that genera are aggregates of closely related species. Genera are the aggregates of closely related species. For example, potato and brinjal are two different species, but both to the genus Solanum, lion, Panthera leo, leopard paradis, and tiger, Panthera tigris, with several common features, are all species of genus Panthera. They all belong to the species Panthera. This genus differs from another genus, Felis, which include cats. Felis includes cats. And the next category, family, has a group of related genera with a still less number of similarities as compared to the genus and species. Families are characterized on the basis of both vegetative and reproductive features of plant species. Among plants, for example, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, Dhatura, are placed in family Solanaceae. Among plants, another important line, three different genera, Solanum, Petunia, Dhatura. They are placed in family Solanaceae. Solanum, Petunia, Dhatura are placed in family Solanaceae. Among animals, for example, genera Panthera comprising lion, tiger, leopard is put along with genus Felis in the family Felidae. Similarly, if you observe the features of a cat and a dog, you will find some similarities and some differences as well. They are separated into two different families, Felidae and Canidae. Order. You have seen earlier that categories like species, genus, and families are based on a number of similar characters. Generally, order and other higher taxonomical categories are identified based on the aggregates of characters. Order, being a higher category, is assemblage of families with few similar characters. Few similar characters. Assemblage of families with few similar characters. The similar characters are less in number as compared to different genera included in a family. Plant families like Convolvulaceae, Solanaceae are included in the order Polymonales. Mainly based on the floral characters, the animal order Carnivore includes families like Felidae and Canidae. This category includes class. This category includes related orders. For example, order Primata comprising monkey, gorilla, and gibbon is placed in class Mammalia along with order Carnivora that includes animal like tiger, cat, dog, and class Mammalia has other orders also. Okay, so phylum is, we describe phylum in the case of animals and division in case of plants. So, moving. Classes comprising animals like fishes, amphibians, reptiles, birds, along with mammals constitute the next higher category called phylum. All these are based on the common features like presence of notochord, dorsal hollow neural system are included in phylum Chordata. In case of plants, classes with fewer similar characters are assigned higher category called division. All animals belonging to various phyla are assigned to the highest category called kingdom Animalia, and the classification of a system of animals. The kingdom Plantae, on the other hand, is distinct and comprises all plants from various divisions. Henceforth, we will refer to these two groups as animal and plant kingdoms. The taxonomical categories from species to kingdom have been shown in ascending order in figure this. We will see this figure. These are broad categories. However, taxonomists have also developed subcategories in this hierarchy to facilitate more sound and scientific placement of various taxa. Look at the hierarchy. Can you recall the basis of arrangement? Say, for example, as we go from higher from species to kingdom, the number of common character goes on decreasing. Again, important line. As we go higher from species to kingdom, the number of common characteristics goes on decreasing. Lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that are lower the taxa, more are the characteristics that the member within the taxon share. Higher the category, greater is the difficulty of determining the relationship of other taxa at the same level. Hence, the problem of classification becomes more complex. And that's all with the chapter. Let us see this. First of all, we have species, then genus, then family, then order, then class, then phylum in case of animals, and division in case of plants, then kingdom. Kingdom is the highest category, and species is more specific, and specificity increases towards the species, and number of common characters goes on decreasing from species to kingdom. This is all, and man belong to biological name Homo sapiens, genus Homo hominidae, primata order, and class Mammalia chordata. Most important table. And housefly, biological name Musca domestica, genus Musca, family Muscadiae, and Diptera order Insecta, arthropod. Mango Mangifera indica, genus Mangifera, species Indica, and family Anacardiaceae, order Saphenidales, and dicotyledonine class Angiospermae is phylum. Wheat is Triticum aestivum. Triticum is again genus, and Poaceae is family. Yes, Poales is the order, and Monocotyledon is class, and Angiosperm is again division. दिस इज़ ऑल एंड तो हमारी न्यू एनसीईआरटी में कुछ टॉपिक इंक्लूडेड नहीं है, दैट इज़ डिफाइनिंग फीचर एंड कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स. So defining features of living beings are these: cellular aggregations, metabolism, and consciousness. And humans beings का defining feature क्या है? Self consciousness. ठीक है, this is the only feature of human beings, but consciousness is defining feature of living beings, and cellular aggregations or metabolism. And reproduction cannot be said or called as defining feature, because some organisms like mules, sterile worker bees, and infertile human couples, they cannot reproduce. So likewise, reproduction cannot be called as all inclusive defining characteristic of living organism. And another topic is that fungi in reproduction, fungi, filamentous algae, they all divide by fragmentation. And in planaria, true regeneration occurs. Okay. And all these are the reproduction cannot be considered as defining characteristic. Also, growth cannot be called as a defining feature, because non-living things also grow. Okay. So this is all the chapter. Hope you like the video. Thank you.